Back on the show today is Steve Halpern with Compass of New York City. He was the first commissioned agent to come from another company to Compass. He did the first 100,000 plus lease in New York City and the first multi-million-dollar listing for Compass. Steve is best known for some of the most innovative, creative, and the best marketing among real estate agents in the country. In our first interview, episode 109, we talked about how risk is the real opportunity. Today, we talk about self-awareness, how to get out of your own way. Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf Podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. This podcast is to share knowledge for realtors and raise awareness for Give Back Homes, where real estate professionals work together for social good. Jet Centers Aviation, Bentley Atlanta, Legends Global, thank you for your sponsorship. All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf Podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. Today we have back one of the most fun interviews, if not the most fun interview I've ever had on the show, Steve Halpern with Compass. Just so everybody remembers. First,
hi, everyone.
Hi. Right?
Hello.
First commission
you look beautiful
agent.
Today. I love your top.
Thank you. You know what? I thought you'd appreciate this because you're the artistic guy, right?
Well, that's
so
okay.
I'm going to remind everybody who you are, and then I'm going to let you talk. He's like, let's get going. First commissioned agent for Compass in New York City. I mean, big risk taker. He follows his gut. He talked about in the last interview how he got there. First $100,000 lease for Compass. First multi-million-dollar deal for Compass. Has his own, what would you say, is it advertising or media company?
Media company, yeah.
Everybody check out Halpern TV. Check this guy out. Amazing, amazing marketing. He is so inspiring and really is just an example of what a powerhouse real estate agent is and does. And it really sets a great precedence for all of us. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I had to get all that in. And today,
thanks for the kind words. I'm blushing. You can't see it because of the red suit, but and it's there.
It's all
thank you.
Good. I love it.
Exactly.
So today I really want to talk to you about, we talked about the last show is why risk is the answer and why risk is a real opportunity. And in that, this business, we all come on our podcasts and we market ourselves and we're on the $1 million real estate agent. And it looks like It's all easy and we're just smart and there's some magic potion or whatever that we took and nobody else has access to. And the reality is, the Compass principle, learn from reality. There is reality. We're always learning from it. And talking to you today about how have you done that and how do we as agents keep that going and ride through those and bounce back so that we're constantly opportunities and not getting drawn down by the challenges of this business. I want to start on that with one question to get us going is what do you find is your biggest challenge in being a real estate agent?
Wow, it's a big question because it's probably different things at different times, I would say. I think we have to be all things to all people. And, sometimes that's really, really complicated. We have our own lives that we're living. We have, wives and families and, teams and employees and managers and financial issues and all of these things. And in the end of the day, we still have to show up and be, bright and energetic and not tired and all of these things. So I think, I would say the biggest challenge I have is probably similar to most people, which is really how do I keep myself energized and happy and inspired to do the job that I do well, right? And I think I know so many incredible agents that I see at different points in their career that are having like really terrible moments where they're really second guessing themselves. So, I think we really always, I think it's something that actually talking about amongst our Compass people, as well as our different pools of agents would be really actually a helpful thing. So for me, the biggest challenge I have is really showing up, staying motivated, staying in a great mindset all the time while all this other stuff is going on. What about you?
You told me you were going to do this, and I told you you could. Now I'm not so sure about that. Maybe I'm a control freak.
Okay.
I'm teasing you. I think I agree. I think it's mindset. I would say though, on the mindset thing, I have found that it used to be the challenges would really, especially clients get frustrated and they seem irrational because they do get irrational, because when you're dealing with your home, even though we live in the new age of like, it's going to be okay if you have to pay an extra $1,000 in closing costs, it doesn't feel that way because you're talking about your home and your family and your money, and things get crazy. And when people do that, because of the years of being in business, I have found that in every problem, there's an opportunity. And in every person that might seem irrational in the moment, it gives me the opportunity to understand, ask questions the right way. I'm going to throw it in Chris Voss because it has done that for me, his book and his principles.
True.
And constantly, it's like I used to think about quitting because it would be so frustrating because it's about who's number one and who did the deal and why is that so important? What should be important is helping people. If we have any purpose in this world, it's to help other people. Remembering that every day and remembering when clients are losing it on us, it's because they trust us and we need to show up for them.
Yeah, I remember
I didn't
a moment.
I didn't answer your question. But go ahead.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We'll come back. I'm not letting you get away that easy. Don't worry. All
good.
right. Last year, I remember a moment, and I'm thinking a lot about what you were saying about this whole idea of being number one, right? I remember last year, last year, the market in New York definitely took a dive. I know most of the country is feeling it now a little bit more. New York was a little bit ahead of everybody. And, we had, over the last 4 or 5 years, we had pretty significant growth happening every year, which was amazing. And then last year hit, and the second half of last year hit, and it was like everything was on pause, right?
Yeah.
And
for you, not in Atlanta, by the way, but go ahead. Yeah.
Well, great. Good. I hope it stays that way forever. That would be great. And it's starting to pick back up now, which is great. But I remember hitting a point of being like, oh my God, we're not going to grow like we did the year before, right? And I started treating things like numbers constantly, right? And it was like stressing me out so terribly. And after a few weeks and months of like always testing numbers, looking at numbers, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? I said, what am I doing? Like, I need to go back to where I was when I started, where everybody that I met was like this commitment of like a great relationship. And it brought me back to where I started, which was all about meeting amazing people and being the person that could be not the person pushing them based on a number, right? So for me, it really did change my mindset from like this crazy stressful moment to actually really enjoying every conversation I was having with people. So from that perspective, I don't think we can judge ourselves so hard as we do, because I think we all do that.
And I would say, and then I am going to tell you my biggest challenge, but I would ask you is that there's a book called The Go-Giver.
Right.
And in that book, the biggest lesson I got, and I need to read it again and make sure it's really in there, but I remember getting the lesson there because I haven't read it in like a decade or more, but it is, not only is it important to give and to share and to help other people, but to be able to do that, you have to be open to receiving. So I say that to go into your situation is in that sometimes we get in that place of like, we got to close the deal, we got to push the deal, we got to do this. And it's like, wait a minute, that's a control mindset. Could even be, if we're not careful, which you're not a scarcity person at all, but being careful just that the human nature of that doesn't take us there and going, wait a minute, like you said, in meeting these people and receiving the gift of the connection and the relationship and the gifts that you're given. I mean, you're one of the most creative, talented people in marketing.
Thank you.
In ever. And having that opportunity to share that with people, that in just focusing on being present with people and doing that, it opens up more doors and more deals despite what the market's doing and despite what we think our numbers are. Yeah.
Sorry, do you know what I realized actually, which is I felt was to touch on what you're saying is it's actually the relationships and the commitments to those relationships that make me want to have those big ideas and really, really overproduce for people. And the financials are nice, but they don't really put me in that mindset where like, I just want to go and do anything in the world that I can do for people. When I have that relationship developed with a new client, and that puts me in the mindset to say, you know what, this one's got to be special. And I'm going to go and rack my brain until I come up with that idea that is going to literally create the magic that is going to get them to where they need to go. It's fun to create cool stuff. Always. There is a lot of, I get a lot of appreciation and fun from that. But really, when I have a great relationship with somebody, it's really what sparks that match for me to do it. So, in the end, like, numbers are never going to do that. Not for me, they're not. I know some people are driven towards a financial goal, and that's what gets them. For me, the number is cool as the tracking point, but not really something that is going to ultimately motivate me to get me to a place. It's all about the people and having great friends, and that's the coolest part of what we do. Is that after we're done selling their home or having them buy a home, we get great, we have amazing relationships with them, and we get to have really cool friendships with them. They're not just like done at the end of it.
Well, and I feel like I have friendships with people that on a level, whether it's like you and me as agents or my clients, like we could never have this kind of connection and have these fun conversations if we didn't have this experience of being a real estate agent. And even the most challenging parts of being a real estate agent, of the uncertainties and all of the money that we're putting in all the time with no guarantee ever. And not only that, but emotions are also high and at stake, which can be painful to be on the receiving end of on either side.
Right, of course.
Is that through that finding, which is kind of what I was saying before, but there's so much perspective that's gained from this experience, and so much perspective, so many problems that have turned into opportunities, as long as we're staying, which is not always easy, but staying in that frame of mind to continue to see it. And I would ask you, I keep asking you questions, but I want to know from you too, because you do the kind of marketing that is not inexpensive. It's a big risk. Obviously it's paid off, but there's no guarantee. How do you know, I want to know two things. How do you know, and how do you move forward with that despite the risk?
Sure.
And how do you come up with those cool ideas?
Okay. So to the first question, how do I know? The answer is I don't. But my perspective on it is something different than I think a lot of people have. Is I don't care if it works. Well, that's not true. I can't say I don't care.
Obviously,
it's gonna work.
Yeah.
Obviously, I care. I care about everything, probably a little too much sometimes. But
I think that's one of the criteria of being a real estate agent, because otherwise you couldn't be crazy enough to do this.
Because if you don't, you won't last. If you don't care, you won't last. If you're not always trying to improve yourself and do good things for people, you won't last. But so. Originally, when I started doing some of the bigger marketing ideas, my perspective was this: it was probably a few years into my career. I got a big opportunity. We talked about it last time, the big house that I got, the $100,000 a month rental. And what I realized was that I had to take that big opportunity that I had on my lap and turn it into a career, right? I felt it was my rocket ship, right? So what I did was I trusted the thing that I had in my heart and in my history of working. And I said, even if this does not produce the outcome right at this moment, having this material will allow me to present myself to people at a level that would allow them to potentially give me an opportunity that otherwise they wouldn't give me. Right. Yeah. So I've spent money on things. I remember one time I had a developer client that asked me to take on an apartment for them. And at the time they were considering whether they were going to rent or sell. Right. And I pitched them this awesome idea for video. Right.
Yeah.
And then they decided just to rent. They just decided to rent the property instead, right? And they were like, we don't expect you to do the video because obviously the commission's going to be much smaller and it's going to be an expensive video. And I said, you know what? First of all, how do I solidify this relationship? And the idea was so friggin' cool that I was like, here's my opportunity to create this awesome piece of art, right?
Yeah.
That will be a great resume piece for the next person that I meet with.
Yeah. You have to tell us what the idea was, but keep going. Yeah.
I will. I'll send you the video. You could put it in the thing. It was awesome. And I spent my entire rental commission. It was a $35,000 a month rental, right? That I've now rented 3 times, right?
Wow.
I've spent the entire rental commission on the first round of video, and I've probably gotten 20 or 25 listings just from showcasing the video to people.
So the answers think long term.
Yeah, the thing is this, is you're building a brand. Just like is not every deal is going to be the home run where you're going to make a crap load of money. Some deals you're going to make smaller amounts of money. But if you leverage that into the next opportunity, then, that's it. That's how it works, right? And exactly. That's my perspective. So, if I end up spending 20, 30 grand on the video, the good thing is I haven't had a scenario now where I've taken that type of risk directly on a property. It was never a risk
in the first place, right?
Is someone going to go and list with somebody else after that? I mean, really, I haven't had that experience yet. So it's build the loyalty of the clients. They see what I'm doing different. I just haven't had a scenario where I've done that and it hasn't actually produced an outcome. So, if that's the history, that's the risk that I'm worth taking.
If you've had, so you're having that kind of success, obviously. So what are your ups and downs? What are really your challenges?
Well, I mean, you say you're having that types of success. I mean, I think success is relative because, I think one of the challenges that we have in our business as well is that, the bar keeps going higher and higher and higher, right? So as we're, compass principle, dreaming big, right? I dream big, I dream huge, I dream massive, right? So for me, there's never a moment where I'm just going to be like, oh, I've arrived, I'm here, right? Yeah. Because I have legends around me sitting in the office next to me that are, selling 50 times what I'm selling. Maybe not 50 times. Well, there's probably some people that are doing that, right? Yeah. And so for me, the ups and downs.
Anyway, keep going. The ups and downs. Yeah.
Again, I have Leonard in the office, and I have Vicky Barron in the office right there, right? These are like the top 20 agents in the country, right? Yeah. Again, no judgment on myself. I'm happy of where I am, right? But what I'm saying is the ups and downs is that in our business, you always have to be self-aware of what's working, what's not working. Where am I lacking? And if you're not being conscious of it, you're ultimately going to limit yourself. So if your ideas are to grow and grow and grow, you have to listen to what's happening. And sometimes that's a hard conversation to deal with when you're having to stay up all the time, right? That usually manifests itself in a conversation where it's like, oh, that's not happening, and that's not happening. The team's not doing what they need to be doing, and I'm not organized enough, and I'm spending too much money, and I'm doing all these things. So that self-awareness is hard at first and can turn into something that creates a reel, but you have to listen to it and not be so hard on yourself, right?
So self-awareness, what's the difference between self-deception on you're kidding yourself about what you're doing, it's not working, but you're telling yourself it is. But on the other end, you really are, self-awareness, there's self-deception, and then there's also being too hard on yourself, and then there's real self-awareness. For you, how do you know, what's your key to self-awareness? How do you know the difference?
So for me, I think the easiest way to answer that question for myself at this point is what I've learned to do, and we talked about a lot of this stuff about the being in your head and one of the things that I've learned how to do is to filter what I'm hearing from my head and through my heart. And like, I just have learned to be in control of my emotions, even when I'm saying something that I'm hearing that should be heard as a little bit of a negative, right? Like we know what we're not doing, right? Like there's a reality to it, right? So how I do it is I literally say, is this coming from the blueprint and the story and the meaning of some other BS that's happening? Or is this me really telling myself I'm doing something and I'm missing something and I need to step up and do more with it, right? Because everything that we should be doing that we're not doing, we know that we're not doing, and we're making all kinds of excuses for why we're not doing it.
Yeah.
But we know, I know what I'm not doing and I should be doing. I know the things I'm afraid of, right? I know the things that are like, it's not going to destroy me anymore because I'm in control of how my emotions are going to play out. So I think, for me, that's how I deal with it. It's very much like, where is this coming from? Is this real? Am I judging myself too hard? And I would say the other side of it is taking action and not being afraid to take action when there's something that is clear and you're self-aware about something missing in your life or in your business, and you can't get over that fact and you can't get over the hurdle that's there. You have to take some type of action to either force yourself out of it or bring somebody else around you that is going to do it for you, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I try and do at this point is
you just made me think of something. Tony Robbins. What is it with Tony Robbins coming into my life? It's ever since that last interview with you. It's all your fault. I'm quoting him all the time now. But
there's no reason to be afraid of it. So
I'm afraid. But Tony Robbins, I'm fascinated with Tony Robbins because he uses NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And neuro-linguistic programming, a lot of it, everybody, just FYI, I know enough to be maybe possibly dangerous, but it's understanding there's a reality that none of us can conceive of in the first place because it's beyond our capacity. But then so our reality, well, there is reality, and then there's our perception of reality. And our perception of reality is the blueprint, which you were talking about in our brains, which probably made me think of this. But we've got the blueprint in our brains of what reality is, and then we've got what reality is. And it's sometimes, I think, like you talk about knowing what I'm afraid of, or knowing things that, like for me, there are things in life where I'll get a little bit emotional, which will get me to not do it, or that fear factor, and going, okay, what is it I'm afraid of? And redefining those things, redrawing the map in my brain. Is going, wait a minute.
Reframing it.
Right, reframing it recognizing what it is and going, okay, I don't know what it is, but I know that I'm procrastinating. I know there's certain things I'm not doing. I know there's certain problems that keep reoccurring in my life. What in my roadmap is missing or needs to be remapped or redefined or re-understood so that my responses and my behavior and my habits are adjusted. So,
or I would also say that another thought, first of all, reframing is an art, and like it is probably one of the most powerful things I've learned is that literally, if you think something negative, if you just change the perspective a little bit, it really makes it much smaller and makes it much more achievable. But what I was saying is learning from past experiences in a way that allows you to take action quickly so that you're not sitting on the same crap over and over and over and over and over again. So for me, what I've learned is I have a very strong voice in my head that likes to, make me feel not so great about myself sometimes, right? I wake up with it probably every morning, right? And I've trained myself that if I wake up in that format and I feel that in that way, if I go and I exercise right away, right? Yeah. I shut up the voice and it's gone. Yep. It's gone for that day, pretty much, right? So now when I start having that feeling, I know how to solve it. So a lot of people just have that same voice recurring and they have not figured out a way to counteract it.
Change the conversation with yourself.
You have to, because it's there to protect you against fear and doing some things that you're uncomfortable with. It's what it is, right?
Right.
It's there protect you, but you know better than that, than it being a real issue, right?
So have you heard of the book, the one that's the most well-known is Untethered Soul, but he also wrote...
I know about it. I have not read it. I have a stack of books at home. The Go-Giver is on it.
I'm just going to send you another stack.
Okay. Sounds good. I love that.
I'm into these books. So Surrender Experiment. So he wrote the book Untethered Soul. The one that was really impactful, more impactful, and makes more sense of Untethered Soul. Untethered Soul was like on the Oprah Winfrey bestseller list, so forth and so on. But the other one is The Surrender Experiment. And it's about his life story. But the message in it, you made me think of, but everybody read it. It's completely kind of does a 180 on the model of like, we're always talking about intention and goals and goal setting, and he's kind of got a little bit of an opposite perspective. But the main thing that's relevant to this conversation is you're talking about the voice in your head. He's like, you're not the voice in your head. The voice in your head is a voice in your head. You're what's hearing the voice in your head.
Right, of course.
So, but it just is a reminder. I think a lot of us hear that voice in our head, and that's who we think we are, or that I even think that makes us think like that's just who we are, and that's just reality, and it's just a voice in your head. And like shifting it, like you said, like going to work out, or two things: the working out, I do that, but also turning the voice off for a minute, not forever, and like I do a lot of meditation or guided meditation.
Me too, by the way. So.
Oh, really? And yoga, which is kind of, they're both one and the same lot. But so meditation, tell me about that. What do you do?
So I do a combination of things. So, I think something a couple years ago when I started to like actually get to a point where it was time to really like sort of work on some of these things, I started doing a lot of research about what successful people do and morning routines and all of that stuff. So, after that, I started really honing in on doing at least 10 or 15 minutes every morning of either some type of gratitude meditation, or Tony Robbins has a thing called priming that he, if you go on YouTube and you type in Tony Robbins priming, it's
Tony Robbins
incredible.
priming.
Yeah, and basically the concept of, so now what I do, I don't do it every day now, I should. But, again, we always strive for sometimes being better than we are.
I'm going to have to text you tomorrow and be like, Tony Robbins priming, are you on it? Because I'm going to try it tomorrow morning.
Yeah, so the idea of the Tony Robbins priming is, Tony says, for people who are entrepreneurs and people who are like heavy brain people and they think a lot, doing a meditation teaches you to turn your brain off for a period of time, right? And there's just a reality to someone like us, or I know myself, if I'm sitting there like, om, what's happening to me is like, I'm going through this process of like the issue that I have in my lap, and I'm going to spend that 15, 20 minutes. And maybe by the end of it, I'm going to sort of zone out enough that I get it's still relaxing. It's still incredibly relaxing. Right. But Tony's idea is that he guides it in a way where the first 3 minutes of it or so, you're thinking about three things that you're extremely grateful for, right? So you spend the first piece of it embodying a moment that you're really grateful for, right? The second piece of it is you're actually trying to heal yourself and the challenges and the things that are in your soul as things that are that you feel you need to heal. The next piece of it is you're actually sharing that healing with other people that you think are having challenges. So you're actually putting energy in their way.
Wait, so what's the first one again?
The first one is gratitude.
Okay,
so it's
gratitude, healing,
three different moments of gratitude. Healing yourself, right? And during the gratitude part, you're actually holding your heart. You actually start it with like raising your hand for a minute, like, so you get your heart pumping.
Yeah.
So you then hold your heart, 3 moments of gratitude, 3 minutes of healing yourself, 3 minutes of healing somebody else or other people that need it. And the last part of it is envisioning 3 things that you're trying to accomplish. They could be small goals, they could be big goals, and actually embodying yourself in that moment of success, right? So
Wow.
it's incredible. It's incredible because
I'm writing this
you
down.
really are priming.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're priming yourself for all the things you kind of need to feel in order to get forward with your day. And the best part about our conversation right now, we haven't spoken about real estate in like 20 minutes, which is awesome. But all of this is,
It's so relevant.
it's so relevant.
So the guy that oh gosh, I never remember his name. Is it John Rohn?
Oh, Jim Rohn.
Jim Rohn. Thank you. Jim Rohn talks about success is looking for a good place to land, and he also talks about. I think he's also the one that says, is it him or a lot of people may say it, but if you're looking, you can only be as successful as you can only be a successful person as you are a developed person. Like if you want to be a better person and make more money, you've got to focus on being. If you want to make more money and be more successful, you've got to focus on being a better person. Because as far as your values go, that's what carries you in your decisions and your negotiating or whatever your job is in life that you're doing every day. And it carries out, and that's what reaps the rewards and the success and the results. Because we're all in this, like, we are in this Protestant country that was born on hard work, which I value and love because I definitely work hard, probably too hard. And it's like, there's a point of diminishing return of work harder, work harder, work harder, work harder. And then you're going to keep working harder, but your results are going to start declining and going back down. Of
course.
Which is also the
what we were talking about in the pre-interview, the what got you here won't get you there. I mean, it's awesome book, by the way, another awesome book.
Yeah, that one I read. I don't know if I read the whole thing. So let's talk a little bit about that book. Like, and that's a little bit of what today's focus is like in our business. You become very successful, but as you're successful, how do you continue to grow and stay in a positive state of mind and get better and better, or achieve what you want to achieve? So what you got you here won't get you there. What was your big takeaway from that?
Well, I mean, I think we can talk in the book itself was really just a matter of understanding that the goals that you have in one moment ultimately they're just gonna change over time, right? So again, we're all chasing certain types of successes and whatever they're gonna feel for us, right? So and when it's all about, like, you set your why, and that's what pushes you to get to a particular place. But then when you get even close to that, you find that it's not as rewarding as you thought it was going to be, because the reasons you were trying to get there were not really the things that actually you were going to find that fulfillment from, right?
So your why may not be what you thought it was.
No, I mean, I think I remember for me, like when I started out, like it was more about the validation from other people that got me really excited, right? It was more about like people telling me, oh, what you did there was amazing, or getting accolades, right? And like getting those things and being the number one in my office at that particular time. And like, now I could give, I don't give a shit at all. Like, I don't care at all.
We're not on the radio. Anyway.
Okay, good. To only have one curse for me in this hour, like we're doing pretty good.
I know, seriously, like you're from New York. I mean, every other word for you should be fuck, for sure. Like, what's going on here? I said it, and I'm from Atlanta, and that is unacceptable down here.
I've heard some.
Isaac is not going to edit it out, everybody, but he is going to have a hard time with that.
So what I was saying was that, like, so I think what happens is the idea of that book is that learning, we as Compass Principle also is like, learn from reality, right? So you always have to be assessing where you're at, learning from that moment, and resetting the goals that you have in order to make it so that they're actually serving you in this particular moment, because you get to certain places and you have to do things different. And I will speak for myself. What I've experienced that I think is really important to touch on too is, like, when you're a marketing person and your strength is marketing, right? You always have to be innovating, because you do something and then other people do it, right?
Exactly.
So like, you can't just do one thing and recreate that and recreate that and recreate that, because at that point you've already lost your spot, right?
Exactly.
And I see it happening. It's a challenge that I deal with, because it's always like I have to innovate, I have to always be innovating, and it takes a lot of energy to do that. And again, like
and
I
a lot
also
of time.
have to be, I also have to be willing to feel comfortable looking at what other people are doing and actually saying, hey, I love what they're doing, and I'm proud when somebody else innovates, not just feeling like, oh my God, how did they do that before I did, right?
Yeah, it's a great point.
For a long time, that was a feeling that I had, right? But like, there are around us, I'm in New York, in the Compass, New York, like there are like amazing people doing amazing things that I just wouldn't be capable of. So, I don't know. I think it kind of went a little awry on the particular answer, but I think being self-aware and like understanding that you get to a certain point and you want to have growth, you have to actually start doing things that are different. And for example, we just hired somebody. I had realized, I had looked back at my business for the last few years, and I said, it's all repeat and referral for the last 3 or 4 years, which is cool, which is great. But if I want growth, I need to find a new source I need to do some business outside of
a new model to support that business.
Right, exactly. So I said, you know what? Well, what should I do? And I hired in a senior operations person, a business manager, who started with me a week and a half ago. Wow. So that I can have somebody who's not a creative, who can work with me to help me scope out how to grow from here, right?
Right. And you're busy doing the creative and the fun, innovative, branding you really well stuff, right. But you still have to have the systems behind you that are going to take that and grow you with it. So
exactly, and use what we've built and help design the scalability of it, right?
So back to where we started, the ups and downs, is you keep your focus on that and what you're good at and your passion, and you just can't help it. Mm-hmm. You really can't, which is awesome. No. So there's a book, I've mentioned it. I don't mention it as often on the show, but it reminds me a lot of what you're talking about. The Code of an Extraordinary Mind, Vishen Lakhiani. Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it. I have actually I've read something about it, so like a short form, so I understand a little bit about it. But please, I do need to read it in more of a formal.
Books for you. Okay.
Well, again, I have like 3 going at a time, so I'm always listening to something, and then I have part of my morning routine is at least 10 pages of reading every morning before I look at my phone. So I have,
you have your stuff.
It's how I keep myself sane and focused on being positive. Exactly. Is always filling my head with things that are positive, right? But please tell me about that book.
So the book of the Code of an Extraordinary Mind talks about the different stages of consciousness. And their one stage of consciousness is like, you're told to go to school and go to work and get a job and get benefits and everything will be good. And that's what you do. And the next one is like, you're like, wait a minute, there are things I can do to change my world and get my world to accommodate to my wants and needs or my desires. Right. That's what you do. Then the next one's like, oh, wait a minute. There's like, I might be part of a different, bigger picture with better things in mind for me than I ever thought of. And so you work with the world in a way, which I think is really relevant. And don't let me miss the 4th stage to our role in this industry is sometimes going like, really knowing it's really not about you. Like it's not about me, because that gets in. When I deal with difficult agents, I find the common denominator, or difficult situations, I should say, the common denominator of every difficult situation and every difficult person. I don't know that people are not really difficult, but when they are seeming difficult or become what seems difficult, it's because suddenly it's about them. Yeah. And diffusing that emotion. Yeah, and insecurity. So knowing that there's like the world is bigger than just me, and I'm playing a role in something that is bigger than what I might conceive and special, and like there might be something like greater in mind if I'll, back to the go-giver, receive it. For me, that's what the go-giver means. And then the last stage is like if you're Gandhi or, Buddha or Jesus, or at that level of like time doesn't even exist, and that's the 4th stage. Or you're just like literally like on a different, obviously like different plane. I've not had or Eckhart Tolle has a book. You know who Eckhart Tolle is?
Right. Yeah.
The Great Awakening. He went into that stage of consciousness. Right. So So also in that book, it talks about like whatever stage we're in, we don't even realize our reality. Like we don't even realize the things that we believe are fact that just aren't. Like the things that the book, I haven't read it in a long time, but it's to the point of you're like, it really makes you question what you take for granted as fact, because we are all, back to Tony Robbins, everybody needs a level of certainty and uncertainty. And this book doesn't say it this way, but it's our certainty component. It's like we get into our comfort of certainty and we just assume things are real in reality that just aren't. And I'm going to get way out there because everybody listening is going to think I'm nuts. So it's Vishen Lakhiani who wrote it. But he talks about like we all think we need 8 glasses of water a day. And he talks about a culture in which they have no water. And it goes into how they survived without water. And it's you have to read it, but it's this completely different world. It's fascinating. And he has so many examples of that where you're like, wow, like I just
have you heard anything about the book, the David Goggins book, Can't Hurt Me? It's a new one that came out a few weeks ago.
No.
So David Goggins is you can find him all over the podcast circuit. Everybody's done a podcast.
I don't even listen to my own podcast. So David Goggins Can't Hurt Me. Now he's on my podcast too.
Okay. Well, so David
because
Goggins
of you. Right.
So David Goggins' story is crazy. Like really messed up childhood. And then he went after becoming a Navy SEAL. And during that process of trying to become a Navy SEAL, he learned how powerful what he does. He has this thing that he calls callousing the mind, which is basically the concept of, how like when you're a builder or if you play an instrument, right? You callous your fingers so that you don't feel it, so that you don't have any pain there, right? So, and what happened was he became, over the years, he became an ultra marathon runner, and he used to run 100-mile races, not used to, probably still does, 150-mile races with broken ankles and broken shins, and all in his head, where he was able to learn how to turn off the part of his brain that told him that he couldn't do something by callousing it. It's insane. It's
so
a really kind of
part of your brain that tells you you can't do something. That's the takeaway. Right?
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's crazy stuff, and it's all documented. And it's like literally like he would show up to a 100-mile race having not trained, decided to do it 24 hours before, with no materials that everybody is used to having, and he would show up and he would do it, right? Like,
and that's back to the book. That's exactly like, I'm like, here's me back in like, no way. Like, how do you do, like, was he okay?
Exactly.
Was he okay?
But is he okay? No, he's not okay. He's amazing, but he's also not okay. Like, I mean,
right.
But it comes back to everything that we're talking about, what we have to do in our jobs every day, right? Like every single day, it's like you're talking about people that are difficult, right?
Yeah.
We still have to get out of our own way and get to the outcome, right? No matter how difficult the client is, no matter how difficult the other side is, no matter what kind of drama comes up, whatever kind of issue comes up. Yeah. If we let it beat us up, we're just gonna destroy ourselves and what's the result of that? Nobody's happy. Nobody wins, right? So,
exactly.
I don't know. I'm not anywhere near saying that I'm in that mode where I can just kind of jump in and do whatever the hell. Like, by no means.
Run a 100-mile race unprepared.
I have a client that's been trying to push me to do a marathon for 5 years, and I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that.
Exactly. Right. I don't want to do that either.
It's like the subtle art. This is going to be like the book podcast. The subtle art of not giving a fuck. You can only give a fuck about so many things, so choose carefully. And I don't give a fuck about running a marathon. And I also don't give a fuck about the idiot in front of me who's going slowly, or to call him an idiot, even though I just did. It's like those things, like we spend our time like getting angry and giving a fuck about things that don't matter. And be careful because that's valuable. That's special. Like, be careful what you care about.
We have to do Atlanta versus Brooklyn fuck meter right now, because you're crushing me right now on the you're like killing it.
I crush it's like I have to watch myself. I crush everybody in Atlanta, but I'm only doing it for the book right now because it's the name of the book.
Sure.
And the book says fuck 50 times. So I just am like, in honor of the book, I'm quoting it. Okay, everybody in Atlanta, please, we may lose listeners on this. Please come back. We won't do it again. But
I think
maybe we will.
If they made it this far into this podcast, then
right.
I think they'll be okay.
They choose carefully. We'll just on the blog post it'll say.
I'm done. I'm not going to say anymore, just so that you
can.
I
am going to because I got to keep talking about this book. So.
All right.
So, but in the book, the biggest thing is it's also like choose what you give a fuck about, because that's what the book says. It also says you will find that the better your values, be very careful that you're self-aware, back to your point of what your values are. Because the better your values, the easier it is and the less you'll give a fuck about things that don't matter. And things that you focus on in your life and the results and what you reap and what you experience in life is heightened and elevated.
You're in control of it. I think the reality of it is you're in control of it if you actually understand what where it comes from and how your mind works and how you create certain types of things based on what you need and all of these things. It all comes down to the same thing, which is ultimately if you truly are okay with actually feeling uncomfortable for a few moments to say, okay, well, why do I do the things that I do? You're in a lot more control of how you end up in the outcome of it all.
Not only that, but you reminded me of another thing from this author, but not only why do I do the things I do, but because some people are like, I do it because I want to, or I'm not running a marathon because I don't give a fuck about a marathon and I don't want to run it, right? But on the end of that, it's like, why you do the things you do, well, what you're doing, how does it impact you and your life? And here's where I'm going with that. Mark Manson, he's the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. He has a blog post. I'm just trying to get you on the fucks here. But anyway, I'm right, want to get way up. But
dangling it.
Right, you said it twice, once, whatever. So maybe we'll do a meter that counts.
Fuck. All right.
What? No, stop. So anyway, there's this awesome, my favorite blog post, even though I haven't read enough, but this one's brilliant. And you may have read this, it's actually famous, but it talks about the exercise. I think this is where I'm going to show my ignorance, but the Navy SEALs, where they tie the guys up, do you know this? And they drop them in the water for 6 minutes. And that, when you're dropped in the water, you naturally want to react. It's in our wiring, in our whatever, to react and try to escape. And the key is to sit still. Yep. To go down to the bottom, come up, get air, come back down. Don't exhaust your energy because you will drown yourself. Yep. And how many of us in the things we're doing and deciding what to give a fuck about, because we're not just considering I give a fuck because I want to survive, but wait a minute. What is the effect it's having on you when you do these things? And is it drowning you the way it drowns the guy that doesn't just hang on, sit back, sit still, and pay attention to the consequences of his own actions?
If you love that and you like that story, you would go nuts over this book, the David Goggins book. It's just literally story after story after story story of fucked up things that he went through that
watch out, Chris Voss, watch out.
Well, I would imagine you'll find them in the same circles at certain points, and I would probably be, but pretty incredible. Definitely, definitely an amazing. And again, some books like that, I walk out of there and I'm like, I'm ready to go, right? I'm not getting that from that book. I'm getting this guy is crazy and but it's an extreme example of something that where it puts me is who the hell am I to complain about the little shit that's happening in my life right now that's not working, and somebody's pissing me off from my team, or someone didn't do what they were supposed to do, or somebody, who the hell am I to complain about something as small as that when people have real problems, right? People people have health problems. People have like things that they're not in control of that they can't fix, right? Like people get abused, right? Like, again, you know, I think there's something about just saying the subtle art of not giving a fuck and like we're not that important. Not everybody's that important all the time. And that's okay too. And if you don't think like that sometimes, like you really are, you know, I don't know. I just think it's something there of like, you can't take yourself seriously all the time. And there's so many people who are capable of things that are amazingly amazing. And you can't compare, you know, like, and you got to play with that.
But, you know, like I remember when I was a newer agent, like every time a sign would go in a yard, I'd like literally like, this is kind of sad and ridiculous. And so out of touch with reality, I was like, I should have gotten that one. Like now I'm like, sometimes I feel sorry for people when they get one, but because, you know, I mean, not to be negative, everybody listening who's my client, or I guess, you know, when I take your business, I really want it because I do, but my point in that is that now I can remember thinking other agents were my competition. I remember I was like, whatever, I'm focused on getting clients, doing a deal. Agents are stupid. I mean, that it's so embarrassing to even admit. But now it's like other agents, now I'm going in too many directions at once, but other agents, if they're not as good as me or ours, or actually nobody's as good as anybody, if they're level production, whatever, it's an opportunity to connect. But more importantly, back to your thing, is like every time I see somebody successful, even if I don't like them, I find them inspiring. If they're more successful than me, or if they're doing something differently from me, I'm like, that is so awesome. And what an inspiration. Like, what a great example of something I could do, because what if they can do it, why not me? But now I get to apply my own secret sauce, because nobody's like you, nobody's like me. And it just inspires me to know that, wow, good for you. And look at you're just another great example of one more thing I can accomplish if I want to, and I want to, if set my mind to it.
Yeah, I wish I could say I wasn't competitive about listings, but I have you know, what I have done now more than before was that I catch myself in that moment and I say, you know, again, in New York City, there's so many opportunities.
Exactly.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's not that. It's more like, how could I have done something not to get that listing, or like I see somebody do something cool in marketing and I go and I get like, oh man, cool. They did something cool. Oh man, I should have done that. Or, right. But I've learned to not hate on the person, but really feel being competitive is okay. It's good to be competitive.
Competition is awesome. Yeah.
But not when just don't be a hater. Like if you're a hater on somebody, then you're not.
A hater is just being insecure.
Yeah, it's just being insecure. Don't be like, you got to love when your people are successful, or somebody else, or, you know, you say, if that's who the agent, you know, the owner wanted to trust in that role, you know, again, I hope they succeed. I want everybody to succeed, you know?
Exactly. Well, we can't list them all on our own.
I know. True.
Maybe we could, but
we couldn't. It would not be fun. It would not be fun.
It's nice to have other agents to work with. It's nice to have other people in the world, you know?
Well, I would also say, you know, I don't know how many transactions a year you do, but I know in New York, like. So
we do about 50. Yeah.
Okay. Well, perfect. So I've met agents from other parts of the country that are doing 300, 400, 500 deals a year. And all I think of is like,
wow,
like where's the ledge and how fast can I jump off of it? Because that just is not inspiring or exciting for me by any means. Right.
It's
like
nuts.
It goes exactly against from what I'm trying to do, which is being like someone to help somebody. Like, I think if you're doing that many deals, you don't even know who you can't even like run into your client and know who you're talking to, right? Like you're like, what's your name again? I have 50 listings right now. It's just not something that I think I will ever want to do. And listen, if we sell 300 apartments in New York City, like I'll work for the next 5 years and you'll never see me again. That's it. But like, you know, just not what I'm trying to do. So I think really, I don't know. I think, again, you and I keep going off on tangents because it's fun. But,
I love it.
you know,
So
I think there's reality to what we do, which is you should love when your friends and people that even your enemies or the people you think are really bad at the job, when they get opportunities, it's good because
no, we can't like it for them.
There's another. Yeah, and that's someone who is going to have a bad experience, which is going to allow us to have a good that person to have a good experience with us later.
Yeah, that is true. So here's a question for you. So I think my biggest challenge is I feel like I love my clients, to deal with them well. I think we always have the challenges of I need to do more with my time every day. I need to do my oh gosh, Aaron Kruger has a name. What was Aaron Kruger's name for it? Aaron Kruger actually she did 459 deals last year. 459 and over 100 million.
Wow.
459 deals. That's like.
And don't get me wrong, like I'm sure she does have a system for being like, by no means am I saying that she can't be there for her clients or a great connection.
No.
It's just, I don't be able to do it.
Well, that's the thing. We all have our gifts and we all have our calling, and that's what we need to honor and let everybody else have theirs. But
true. It's awesome.
So, but back to Erin, what does she call them? Her they're not non-negotiables, but it's something like that. Like you got to do it. Like you can't, like you got to have your stuff that you just do. And I do find for me that I have my stuff I must do and have a team in place to make sure the must do's get done. But sometimes that means I get so shiny object creative that I get into that. And I'm so focused on people and relationships and giving them my time and giving this, you know, and like you and our pocket, which this is productive at the moment, but but that's where my success comes from, that there are a lot of like basic things to be done every day. I do get my yoga in every day, but those basic things every day that it's like, I need to put a little more focus and discipline on that to do it, because I think where I'm going with that though, that is one challenge that I think is the challenge of other things I have, is that I have got for the first time ever, and I think it is, I don't think I know it's because of the environment and the culture that Compass, the environment support and culture Compass presents, have the strongest team and best relationship with my clients. With my relationships are the best they've ever been. My relationships with my team are the best they've ever been. Have the strongest team I've ever had. But I still feel like I finally have the most talented, strongest group of people with me and behind me, and I'm behind them. But I still find that I'm challenged in making sure I'm leveraging them and their talent, not just for my goals, but living for them as much as they're living for me. And how do I do that?
So exactly what you're talking about is you can't be good at everything, right?
Right.
And what I've learned is the people who are great real estate agents are really good real estate agents are not great bosses and leaders, or at least so I need to team, you're fired. You're all gone, fired, done. I'm kidding. Keep going. Well, I'm not saying that could be the answer at a certain point if they're not doing what they need to be doing.
That's not the answer.
Just like I'm telling you, that's exactly why I hired this business manager, because I could not handle being a good boss and holding them accountable for their actions, and also being very clear because I'm a flow person. I'm a person that knows how to jump between scenarios of the things that I'm good at, and I found success there. Yeah. So I brought in somebody specifically with the job to reel this all in, help me build out what that system needs to look like, and be the point person that holds the accountability and runs things so that I can be who I am and do what I do best, which is being out with people, being creative, right? And negotiating deals, all that stuff I'm good at. I want to do more of, but I also want to grow. And the way I can do that is by hiring somebody to do that job for me. So it's an interesting moment.
That's the best advice for me ever, because So Fabian Fredrickson is a business coach from Connecticut, and she's
cool.
she's a business coach for business coaches, but I just find her very inspiring in the way that she's the first person who really got into my skull about she didn't say it this way, but the results were this: positioning my business for my client, not for me.
Yes.
And that's what wins business and makes you grow so fast. Now your next challenge is keeping up with it. But to that is,
and how you communicate it, and how you communicate it to your client, because that's the other challenge.
Exactly.
It's like, you could build the most perfect engine, right? But if you don't learn how to create the communication and how it's going to leverage and help other people. I saw a thing last week. Grant Cardone. I'm lukewarm about everything.
He's a little aggressive. He's a little feisty. Yeah.
I'm lukewarm about his style and aesthetic, but he did this thing. You can find it on YouTube where
people
he did like a live.
People have compared me to him, by the way, which I find interesting because But
he is one of the best sales coaches out there. You just, the hype up and the inspiration. It's just like, I'm not particularly motivated by it, but he's a super smart guy, and the way but he had this thing where he did a live sales session with his sales team, and he was explaining that when you're talking to a person on the phone and you're trying to sell to them, or your goal is to find what they're to solve a problem that they have in the moment, and they will then give you the opening to close them, right? Because you've solved something for them. Give them something easy to achieve.
To me, that goes back to Chris Voss, but I'm going to get back to my Fabian quote, back to this whole other concept we had, but I'm going to finish that first is I remember I used to, in business, I used to be like, okay, my job is to close deals and sell houses and get clients. And that's all. I was just in it for me. And every conversation, and a client would need some time or be frustrated. And I would think, okay, I got to get them off because this isn't a good use of my time. I mean, that's the worst thing ever. Again, embarrassing that I've ever been that way. And I've learned that is the best use of your time, is to shut the hell up and listen to people, and listen, if anybody, listen to your clients, because they need to be heard, and how else are you going to serve them? And sometimes it's but they're not saying things that are relevant. They are relevant because their emotions are the most relevant thing in the deal, and understanding what's going on because they're in control and they're the decision makers and it's their asset and their real estate. But going back to what we were talking about having a business manager, you just seriously, that's so obvious, and I've gotten this advice before, but you gave it to me at the right time, is Fabian Fredrickson talks about in your business, you're successful, me have very similar, and most real estate agents, we are super creative. Even if you're not the most, you are amazing, but you're a shiny, well, it's true. You're a shiny object person. You're we're excited. We new ideas all the time. We see opportunities everywhere. We harness and want to bring them in. And you need someone in the background that back to what I just said my issue is, that takes the time to take all of that and those ideas and implement them. It takes time. Sometimes I'm like, that's a great idea. Let's just make it happen. I thought of it. When's it going to appear? Let it manifest. Right. And as much as we've read The Secret, there do need to be actual human beings taking actions, if it's not you, to implement back to your business manager for your team.
And so just so you the challenge that I had in making the decision to do that, which was really which was something that I think you'll really get, is that the chunk of money because it's not it's a senior role. This is a lot, right?
Right. There goes that whole scarcity mindset
Well, again, I'm not worried about the money itself, but there is a chunk of money no, I just have changed the risk that I'm going to take in this moment from creative to something else. So for me, it was I have always gone towards the creative, thinking that the creative would create this exposure that would create more business, and ultimately I'd figure it out at that point. And after many years of that being the way I always made the decision,
Yeah.
and being self-aware of, I got that stuff. The creative is there, but if I don't have real growth and real systems, so I decided this year, I said, instead of having that budget to go and do all the fun creative stuff that I'm going to do, I'm going to invest that money in something that's different in hopes that it creates more so that I can still go do it.
Well,
But
it will. We're not going to hope. It's going to create more. So it's going to create even more to do even more creative and to have even more and better implemented.
I know it
ways.
will.
Yeah.
And I'm going to feel much more confident and more comfortable in my role because I have the rest of the other things off of my plate. But, you know, that's a choice that had to be made because I don't have unlimited funds to just go and let me go and do everything. It was like, let me invest in infrastructure this year as opposed to like going and doing another, 30 episodes of Halpern TV, which, which we'll probably still end up doing, but this was the right choice in this moment.
This is the choice you're going to make to generate the income, to do even more deals, to do even more Halpern TV. So tell us a little bit, we were talking about this before the show, Halpern TV, it's been a great platform to brand you, but now you're going to cultivate it into something that, and maybe that's part of the business manager, I don't know, but tell us a little bit about the direction you're taking that and some of the things in your business. Sure.
So what we did with Halpern TV was more of like more of an entertainment channel that kind of tied back to the real estate. What we wanted to do is we wanted people to have fun with the videos and there'd be like an underlying real estate theme, not so much real estate in your face, call me to sell, whatever, right? But what we felt we missed was connecting the Halpern team brand of selling to the product. So what we're going to be doing now is we have tons of footage with really fun stuff going on. We're going to go and repurpose a lot of it to tell the sales story in a way that actually would be a much more direct version of trying to get people to understand why they should actually use us to sell or purchase. You're not just cool,
like you care, and this is how you implement and how you do it, and why they would be crazy to hire anybody but you.
And it's also like sometimes we go and we take certain risks, right? And we don't listen to the results of those risks and figure out a way to repurpose and reproduce. And sometimes we go, oh, that didn't work. And we walk away. And Halpern TV worked. It just didn't work to the place where it was like tons and tons of new business that came from it. But we listened to the marketplace. And now we're saying, wait, we still have all this amazing footage that we shot that tell very clear stories. We could repurpose this and tell much more stories with it. And why spend more money when we've already spent the money and spent the time and energy to do it and built these beautiful visuals and all of these things? Is now we can repurpose it to align the two things so that it does actually become effective in selling.
Awesome. All right.
So
I love that. Here's where I think we've been going for an hour.
Yeah.
What are we going to make? What is our takeaway from this? If we want there to be, or you want there to be one takeaway from this conversation we've had, what would that be? Because we've already named all the books.
Yeah. I still believe the takeaway is where we started, which is that, listening to yourself and being self-aware and but also figuring out how to be in control of your mind to be able to show up every day in a way that is positive and rewarding, no matter what happens, is really, first of all, I think the takeaway is that it's possible, and that it's okay to have a shitty moment, and don't overjudge yourself, but figure out how to conquer it, because it's what you need to do over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
I love it. I don't have anything to add to that. Should I add anything to that, Isaac? Should I add anything to that, Steve? I think that was awesome. I mean, I think that's the whole message. And here's mine. If I was going to say, it would just say, whatever you do, kind of to bounce off of you, whatever you do, make sure you're honest with yourself every day and have the self-awareness and the audacity is the wrong word, or maybe not, but make sure you have the self-awareness. Make sure you're honest with yourself, because whatever's in your way, it's nothing but you. So have that self-awareness to get out of your own way, to change, to realize your perception, whatever's in your way, I'm going on now, but whatever's in your way is probably your perception of reality, which is way off, because nobody's as accurate. Get on board with that and make it happen.
I agree with that very much so. Well,
and that makes staying in the right frame of mind a lot easier.
Yep, it's true.
Awesome.
Fuck yeah.
I'm from Atlanta. Yeah, that's right. Awesome.